This is good stuff, but I want to, Eric. We didn't hear from you yet. Coming up, you're from Kenya.
Yeah.
But when did you talk to us?
Yeah. So I came over. Thanks. Came over to the U.S. when I was 20 years old. I turned 21 that year.
And if I hear anybody looking down at you, we're gonna get to the bottom of it because this is this guy right here. But anyway.
Yeah, so growing up, it was a different experience because mostly everyone is black, right? Mm-hmm. So we had a little bit of an Indian population because the British, they colonized Kenya basically. Mm-hmm. And so they brought over the Indians to build the Kenya-Uganda railway. Mm-hmm. So, but after they finished the railway, they basically just stayed. Mm-hmm. And so they opened up businesses and things like that. So we have mostly black people, and then we have a little bit of an Indian population. So the grade school that I went to was predominantly Indian. Going back to what Wayne said, it was a great experience. But thinking back, I think there was a little bit of a feeling that maybe they were better than us. There was a little bit of that. Wasn't much, but it was there. It wasn't enough that I saw a lot of people, get complexes or break down. But it's just something that never came out in a discussion. So going to high school, I went to a Catholic high school, and it was pretty much run by, you could say, missionaries, and they came over from Europe. So about roughly half our teachers were probably European. So, and going back to what you said from your Nigerian friend, basically our perception of the white people, if they came over to Kenya, we rolled out the carpet for them, right? We treated them very nicely. So that was my experience. So then coming over to the U.S., the thing that we had back home that was a problem was mostly tribalism. Or you're from this tribe, you're from that tribe, you're from the other tribe, so this tribe is better than that one, that type of deal. Like, we don't intermarry with that tribe. So that was more of a prevalent thing than, white, black, Indian thing. So coming over to the U.S., then I was more naive, more happy-go-lucky. I was just like, hey, I'm here, and I heard the U.S. is a great place, and I'm here to go to school, and
How old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
20 years.
Yeah. So that was my perception. I didn't see a white person and immediately have a complex or like. But there were situations where I was very conscious that I was the only black person in the area. But in general, that was not something that I felt. In fact, even back home, being predominantly, it's all black pretty much. It's like life is really all the same everywhere. Even in that context, I felt different. I just felt different. So I had this little bit of a wall around me, even amongst black people, kind of like you were saying.
Because you're from Kenya? Because you're...
No, not because I was from Kenya. We were all from Kenya, right?
Oh, okay.
But
why?
I was just different. Maybe this was more of a spiritual thing. In other words,
okay,
people went out drinking every weekend in high school and whatnot, and I wasn't part of that. I didn't really grow up cursing. I didn't, like my dad, had cases of beer and spirits and stuff like that. He wasn't like drinking every he wasn't like a drunk or anything, but he would bring out the liquor every once in a while when visitors were at home. But in the storage, we had like cases of beer and we had spirits and we had access to them, but none of us drank. None of us, we grew up 4 kids, my brother and twin sisters. None of us, it never even occurred to us it was just never a temptation, right? So we grew up like that.
Yeah.
I was just a little different that way.
Yeah.
So coming in here, and I guess maybe I felt I was a little bit inoculated, maybe a little bit, in terms of I was ready to roll alone if I needed to. So if it didn't matter if it was coming from black people or white people, if I saw this rejection thing to me was all the same basically. For
It's
black
like
people,
survival mode kind of again?
right.
Okay.
It was all the same basically.
Mhm.
So my experience with cops here, not much. I'd say it's mostly been actually pretty good. There's only 3 instances, and I think coming into this country, I think coming with the force of how I grew up and my perception of white people in general, I was coming with, I guess you could say, more grace. And so coming in that way, maybe there's a bunch of things that I experience here and there. In fact, my wife always tells me, that guy in the elevator didn't like you. Did you see the? I'm like, what are you talking? No, I mean, like she is absolutely sure that dude was racist, and I didn't see it. To me, he was just being a jerk, like the other guy was being a jerk. Like I've seen this at work where I get paranoid a little bit. I'm like, is that guy racist? And then I see that he's just acting the same way towards the other white folks too. Yeah. So
I see what you mean.
So there's always a calculation and a processing of all this information, and then at some point you come to a conclusion: this guy, it's a race thing or it's not. But anyway, so
do you think that something? Do you think like you didn't have the growing up, at least up to 20 years old, that these gentlemen had? Do you think that had something to do with it? I mean, you mentioned, Kevo, that you were jaded a little bit. Oh, yeah. So, but you didn't really have that experience. Do you think that maybe plays into it?
Yeah, it definitely does. And that's what I was saying earlier, that I think I came in with more grace so that if things happen, like if something happened to me way when I was younger, even if it was just one thing, like happened to you or you, that can basically just tip you over like immediately.
Yeah, Christmas Day.
Christmas Day.
Christmas Day.
Right.
But Oak Park is a great place.
But Oak Park, thank you.
Right.
You'll be able to hear that later. Yeah, you'll hear the recording.
I'll never forget that.
I love it.
Yeah. But if you grow up mostly maybe not experiencing that from another race, then your issues are different. So maybe you have more grace towards things that you may see that come as a result of race.
Okay.
So, but I say that to say that there's probably things that happen. Like I said, my wife probably saw some of these things and I don't. And I just kind of went over my head, or I just let it wash over me because it was like, okay, that's him. That's on him, basically.
Yeah. Is your wife from here?
Sorry? Yeah, she is. She is. But there's 3 incidences that stick to mind that I remember.
And she's not white. She's
half white, half
Puerto Rican and half. Yeah, so she's not.
So Puerto Rican.
Yeah. So the first incident was I was coming from work on the Metro, and I was in Arlington Heights at the train station, and so this young teenager white girl, I see her crying. She's crying for some reason. And I say, what's wrong? Basically. And she just basically goes off and say, I hate effing niggers. Basically, that's what she said, right?
Oh,
she just came out and said it. I'm like,
oh, she's on the train.
No. This is on the platform.
Oh, okay.
So,
Run, brother, run.
I'm like,
Too late to run now. You don't say that. What's the matter? Right?
Yeah.
No.
okay.
No.
Isn't that crazy?
I'll pray
This
for you.
is crazy right here.
So what is? I could sense the tension in the room just by walking up to a
Yes.
fine white girl.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And I believe
see, that wasn't my issue. Again,
Yeah.
like if I grew up here, I probably wouldn't even like. Okay,
Social distance.
Exactly.
Before it was a thing. Before it was a thing, you were social distancing.
Hey, baby, yeah.
I'm on train.
Tell me your phone number.
I'm on train. I don't want no parts of that.
Yeah, because before you say another word, before we're thinking, we're preaching this. We're preaching going and getting,
Yes.
Okay, so continue here.
So when she said that, I just left her alone. I didn't say anything. I just left her alone.
Smart man.
But that was one incident. The other incident that I remember because my wife always asks me, "Have you ever had a bad experience with a cop?" I say, "No." Well, there's one case that we were together, which I'll tell you about, but I pretty much know. And the only case I had with the incidents that I had with a cop, which we were coming from, I was still at Life Changes. We were coming from Chili's, and I had just left Chili's. It's a well-lit area, so I didn't turn my lights on. So just as I'm about to get onto 1994, or I think it's 90 basically. So I'm about to I'm on the ramp, and he stops me. And he's like, "Oh, did you know your lights were off?" I said, "Oh, no, I didn't realize that." Very normal traffic stop. He gave me like a $20 ticket and
He gave
let
you
me
a
go.
ticket?
Yeah. I mean, I think, if I remember correctly, yeah, he did. So maybe that's a bad thing, and but...
Yeah, because I know a woman who got locked up and had to be called for the same thing. That's why I was like, "Oh, you didn't have your lights on?" I thought it was all in real bad.
And here I'm thinking you didn't have your. I'm thinking you didn't have your lights on. I'm thinking warning all day. See the perspective. I'm seeing. I mean,
yeah. So
It was toward the end of his shift.
Right.
That's what it
Make his
was.
quota.
yeah, it was late. It was late. It was probably like 10 o'clock or something. So, so that was the worst experience I ever had. But when we got married, we were going to Chooks' wedding, and we just got off a toll.
I remember you told me that.
We got off a toll, and so it narrows down, and so my wife's driving, and so it narrows, and so we're kind of merging into the highway, and so the cop stops us, and so he stops us, and he has my wife get out of the car and go to his car, which is parked like maybe 100 feet behind.
Wow.
And she gets into that car, and she gets asked all these questions.
Yeah.
Right?
Keep you guys apart.
Huh?
Yeah,
Keep you apart.
Right.
So
So-
you don't have the same story.
So that was weird. And then when he was trying to explain to us why he stopped us, he said, "Oh, you didn't indicate merging coming from the toll."
Yeah.
I'm like, that's stupid.
Investigation.
Huh?
Yeah.
Right.
So
And so that was weird. That was definitely weird. That was the one other incident that I remember.
let me just comment on that because I've lived that on the other end. I was driving from St. Louis to Pittsburgh going on vacation with my friend and his black family. And we were just trading off driving, and I was driving for a while, and we got pulled over, and I was speeding. But they pulled me and put me in the cop car for like a half hour. He's questioning me, and I'm just like, I don't understand what... I was speeding, I admit,
Did
but
they
like...
kidnap you?
Yeah, they were asking me all these questions. I'm like, he's my friend. And when
Where
I...
you going?
Yeah.
Why are you with them?
Yep, all this. So I get back in my friend's car, and his mom, my second mother, I call her Miss J. I hope you're listening. She says, "Yeah, honey, I knew they were. I knew why you were over there. I knew everything, Wow. And I'm like, and the whole time, next hour, we're talking about this, and she's like, but she said one thing. She said, she was a woman of God, and she said, "You're gonna see some things that most white people don't see, and God's gonna use that. He's you're advanced, and God's gonna use that." And at that point, all I was thinking was, okay, I'm gonna, get with some non-white ladies. Okay, this is that's all I was thinking. She was like, "No, it's bigger than that." And Lord turns it around. Okay. Anyway, Eric, I had to interject on that.
Yeah. So yeah. In the corporate world, I think it's pretty much been much of the same. I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm just kind of naive. I just walk into a situation, and I guess I'm so used to it. Like you working 33 years, all people white, basically, you just kind of get used to it. It's just so yeah.
There's certain things that I can be honest, white people just don't have a clue. And David, feel free to chime in. But my wife is Filipino, and when she is with her Filipino family, there is a pride, there is a unity, there is something that they have that is special. And I remember I found it out for the first time, and I learned it. We were watching a Manny Pacquiao fight. It was Pacquiao versus Eric Morales. It was a big night, and if you know anything about Manny Pacquiao in the Philippines, he reigns. They shut everything down. There's no crime. They come together. Like he is representing. He is their hope. I'm telling you, Yeah, they don't. Everybody, like gangsters, they're all taking a break. They're watching the fight. So we had the fight going on at my house, and they were all Pacquiao, and I bet on Morales, and I bet my father-in-law. I know, you're looking at me already, and I was already having fun, and I did like Morales. Pacquiao was just coming up, and it was one of the greatest fights. But they were so into this, and I was just hoping to get a win, and we bet like $10 or something. And so it happened. Pacquiao lost by decision at the end, and I'm gloating. I'm doing this. My family that used to love me and treat me like a king, they were so like I was on.
You wasn't on the road.
I was on exactly. I was on real treacherous ground, real shaky ground, and I didn't realize it until like I started realizing this room is thick with Filipino culture and pride, and Pacquiao just went down, and right now you don't represent anything good to him, and so he paid me, and it wasn't pretty, and I learned from that moment like you got to become all things to all men. There are times when you just keep your mouth closed.
You gave money.
You know what? I think I didn't even collect. I think I was just like,
sir.
Yeah, please, please.
All right.
In fact, would you like $10? You need a win today.
Man, it was a somber moment in there, and I'm like, it was just a boxing match, and it was way bigger than that. It was Mexico and Philippines.
But Scott, you walked out with that $10 though, bro?
I don't think I did, man.
No.
I don't think I made him pay that because it was back in like 02 or 04 maybe.
Okay.
And I watched that fight again. It was a great fight.